Hey guys, it's Chris here with Prestige Auto. We've got this 2003 Nissan Sentra in the garage. It's got a blowed head gasket. There's some water mixed in with the oil. So we're going to get our tools together and I'm going to show you guys how to change one of those out. Alright guys, so we're going to take off this oil cap and check it out. It's gross inside there. I don't know if you can see it real good, but it's milky. Yeah, you can see it. It's like white. It's real bad. So, we've got a blowed head gasket. It's real milky like that on the oil dipstick too. So, it's also got a misfire on cylinder 3. So we're going to get our tools together and we're going to take all this apart and I'll show you guys how to do that. Okay, what we did there was we're going to drain our fluid out of our radiator. I poured a little catch pan under there to catch the fluid. And then if you look, like we're right here at the radiator, if you look under these hoses, right there, you see that little white butterfly? You can see the coolant running out right now. But that white butterfly tab, just unscrew it, and that'll let all your coolant flow out of the bottom. So this is also how you drain your radiator if you didn't know that already. And then we also put some, took those clamps off the hoses. This hose here and that hose there. We're going to pull these hoses off. We got to take this radiator out so that way we'll have more room right here to get the exhaust manifold off. So let's keep on going. Alright, we got that radiator out. It wasn't too bad. There was a couple brackets, one on the top there, one on the top there. We took the two hoses off. You can see that there's the little butterfly thing I was telling you to drain your radiator. You just untwist it with your hand. When you tighten it back up, you just want to hand tighten it. You don't want to overdo it. But that was it. Took those two off, those two brackets, and just kind of jiggled it up out of there. Left us a lot more room. So now we're going to start working on getting this this exhaust manifold off. First we got to take off this heat shield. There is a 3/8 nut there. There's one down here and one over here. So let's get our drill and pop that thing off. Alright. Okay, that was easy enough. So we just tossed that down there and it popped off. Okay, so one thing I like to do when I'm doing these jobs is the screws that I took out, sometimes I like to put them right back in the spots. That way we don't have a whole bunch of screws and bolts laying around everywhere and you wonder where they go back. So something like this heat shield right here, all the ones that I took out, I just put them right back in. That way when we get back to it, they're all there. we've got this O2 sensor wire right here that's attached to this. We're going to unplug this and get that out of the way. Alright, the O2 sensor is unplugged now. This is the wire to it. I just left it on the shield. That bolt is really rusty and I'm not going to fight it. So we just set this out of the way. Here's the plug to the other end of it. We'll deal with all this stuff when we get up there. But for now, let's work on this exhaust manifold. It looks like we've got a few here and there's probably some on the bottom. We're going to go ahead and spray some PB Blaster on that because they're a little rusted and look rough. So boom, get it real good. Okay. Oh, it looks like that one's missing in there. Okay. Alright, so we'll let that soak for a second. We'll find out what size that is. Oh, it's a 12. So these are 12. Let's go ahead and get those off. It looks like there's 8. There's 1 here, 2, 3. Under there's 4. Under there's 5, 6, 7, and around there is 8. So we'll take those off and we'll slide this back away from the head, and that'll give us room. Alright, we've got all those broke free. Some of them, the whole stud came out like this. It stays on the stud, but whatever. Some of the nuts, some of the studs, whatever makes it work. So we got it loose. We're going to pull it back like this. Just jiggle it back and get it free. And that gets it away from the head. So now we're going to start working on getting some of this electrical stuff out of the way. We're going to take off the coils. I think they're a 10 millimeter, or you can use a Phillips head. But the coils, I think this is a 10 millimeter also, or Phillips head. And this is all the way around the valve cover. So we'll start removing some of these hoses here, some of these wires, get all this stuff out of the way and get the valve cover off. Alright, so I noticed that this was kind of hard to pull back and didn't give me enough room. So if you look down here on the bottom, not this, but down here further, over here and over here, there are 2 14 millimeter bolts down there, and they're kind of just holding this up on a bracket. So I took those loose. Now we've got plenty of room. So don't forget about those. Yeah, you can see it. You can see down there. It mounts back right there. There's the bracket. And there's one over here. There's the bracket. And it mounts somewhere in there. You'll figure it out. Okay, good. Now let's work on this stuff. Okay, we got all of our electrical out of the way. I got it all tossed up there. We just unplugged all of the coils. There's a sensor right there. We unplugged something there. Just a couple different things just to get it out of the way. We unhooked this rubber hose. It was going into there. Just moved it out of the way. So now we can get to this valve cover. But first I'm going to go ahead and take this rubber piece off, go into the air box just to kind of give us some more room. So let's get that off. Alright, we've got all of our 10 millimeter bolts off around the edge. There was also a little rubber hose back here on the back. We just pulled that off. And Let's see what it looks like. See how gross it is inside. See that? It's white. It should not be like that. So we've definitely got a bloat head gasket. We'll get all this cleaned up. Set that to the side for now and keep on working towards getting this head off. Alright, before we start removing any of the timing chain or the cams or anything like that, we need to get it at top dead center. So I watched some other videos, and what they said to do was take off the wheel, take off this little cover, and let's get a flashlight. And right there, that big nut on the harmonic balancer, right there. We rotate that clockwise, and watch up here on these little gears. It's really hard to tell, but you'll see it on yours. You can kind of see it here. There's like a dimple right there in between that link. Okay, so you got that dimple, and then this groove cut in. And they said that you want the groove at 10 o'clock and this one at 2. 10 and 2. And once you get it to that, that should be top dead center. So I think we're good to go. We're going to start by, I know there's many different ways to do this. I'm just doing it my way. Other people have different ways, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some paint. And I'm going to put a little bit of paint here on this and a paint on that lobe there. And the same thing here and there. So that way when we take these camshafts out, we'll know that we're putting them back in the same position because our paint lines will line up. Same thing with this over here. So over there where we've got the dimple, we're going to put, oh, right there. We're going to put a little bit of paint on this gear and on the chain. Over here at this line, we're going to put some paint here and on this chain, so that way whenever we put everything back together, they're going to line up. Alright, we went ahead and hit that with some paint. You can see there. You can see right there, I put some white there and there. And then I did it on this one too. Some white there and there, so that way when we put it back, they'll line up together. Also over here, on this gear, you can see I put some white there on the chain and on the gear, and over here on the chain and on the gear. I don't know if yours is this way, but I noticed mine over here where that little dimple is, you can kind of see it. So the link where the dimple is a different color. All these are silver. This one's like a blue, so that'll help me too. But maybe this is an aftermarket chain or something, or someone's already done a timing chain job on this. Maybe that's why it's like that. I don't know if it comes from the factory with the blue link there. But anyways, we got that one marked up. We've got that one marked up. We've got our camshaft marked up. So I think our next step is we got to take this timing chain cover off right here. And I think there's like 4, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's like 8, 10 millimeters that go around it. You can see in there, yeah. There's 8, 10 millimeters in there. We'll take this cover off, and then we'll see what we need to do next. We've got this upper timing cover loose now, and it just pulls off like this. It's milky inside there. Alright. It was kind of, I had to jerk on it a little bit to get it off. All this sealant had it glued on there. But this top stud right here stays in, and there's a stud right there. Yeah, a little pin. It slides over that. It was kind of glued onto it. I had to take a little flat bar in here and just push on it a little bit, and it popped out. So looks like the next step is we've got to get in there to that. Let's see if you can see. We've got to get in there to that tensioner right there for the timing chain. We've got to collapse that and take off this 1, 2 10mm bolts. But we've got to collapse that, and I think Might be able to stick a pin in there to hold it. We'll just have to go with it and see what happens. But it needs to be collapsed so that it will let the pressure off this. We'll take that off. That'll allow our chain to be a little loose. Well, let's try to figure this out. Alright, we got that timing chain tensioner out. You can see it sitting in there. There was two 10mm bolts. And I'm sure there's some other way to do it that I don't know. But I didn't do anything special. I just took the two bolts off gently and slid this thing out. It was under a little pressure. I took the top one first, slowly did the bottom one, and it kind of twisted down and allowed it to come out. But there's no problem. It didn't shoot out or anything. Just reach in there and pull it out. And then we'll compress that and set that. Looks like when we're ready, there's a tab right here. You'll push down, compress this down. This slides over and we'll put a little pin like an Allen key or something, an Allen wrench in there to hold it down. We'll put it back in place, and then when we're ready, you pull the pin, it'll compress back out. We'll get back to that later. Alright, I did have to move the power steering reservoir. You can see it right here, just to be able to get my hand in there better right here and get to it. It goes right here. It just pulled up, set to the side. Not too hard. See, it just sits right there on that. Alright, so now our chain is loose. Everything's marked up. I think now these are 10mm. We're going to go ahead and take the outside ones off and start working our way slowly and getting these loose. Actually, no, we're not. Sorry. We need to take these off. This and this first. So, I saw that. Get a big crescent wrench. And then right here, you put it on there so that we can hold this side. And then take that off. And then this one's got one right here. We'll hold it so that we can get that one off. So let's get started with that. And then we'll come back and take these camshafts off. Alright, we got the camshafts out of here, the timing. It wasn't too bad. We just had to take those gears off, both of them. We've got this timing chain held up and stretched up. You don't want it to drop down at all. If it drops down and skips a tooth on that gear down there, you've jumped timing. So just keep that thing up and tight. Don't let it fall down in there. We've done a few other things. There are two brackets on the back of this intake. Right about in here, it goes straight down. Let's see. We'll come around here. So right here on the very back of it, right there, there's a 13mm, and it's got a little bracket that runs down. We'll go back down here, and it bolts in just right to the back of this harmonic balancer. There's a little bracket. It was back there, and then there's one on the other side. Little bracket. This one's still on there, but there's a bolt right to the back of the throttle body. There was one right down here and one on the very bottom. The ones on the bottom were very easy to get to through here. It's dark and you can't see, but I had my light in both of them. You can reach right in and get both bottom bolts off those brackets. So let's see, what else have we done? Okay, the alternator, we haven't taken off the belt yet. I don't know if we got to or not. I'm just going along with it. All I did on the alternator is there's a big bracket right here. It bolted up here and there, those two spots. I took that out and just tucked that out of the way. Now there's a ground wire coming from this big group of wires that goes to the alternator that comes right here. There's a little P1 right there. Don't know what that means, but this thing's grounded in right there. We're going to take that off and then put our bolt back in. And let's keep on working towards it. Alright, we got the head off. We're not going to take it all the way off. We can just lift it up and do what we need to do. We're going to use the cherry picker over here, I think, and hook it to it. Kind of lift it up so that way we can get underneath it and clean it up. Put the head gasket back down. I've got the timing chain here strapped up so that it doesn't fall down. There were, I think, 10 bolts in here that were 10 millimeter. Got them over here. They were like this. These are your head bolts. They're 10 millimeter, like hex head, like an Allen wrench. And then we've got our camshafts here, and the timing gear there. So we're going to get this lifted up, get it all cleaned up, get ready to put that head gasket back on. Alright, we got her all cleaned up in there, looking good. Looking good. Got the chain strapped up. Now we're going to get ready to, we've got the gasket here. I'm going to spray some of this copper stuff. I'm going to spray on the gasket. And then we're going to unhook the chain, slide it through this spot right here, pop it in place, and lower that head back down. Okay guys, so we've got a lot done. I showed you where I sprayed the gasket with the with that copper stuff. You can see a little bit right there where it's hanging out. And we loosened up the chain and slid the chain through the gasket, set it down. There's two little pins in there to lock it in place. We lock it in place, set the head down, and then, alright, we've got 10 head bolts in here. I've already set them in. They are a hex socket like this, 10 millimeter. And there's a certain sequence we got to put them in at. I'll post a picture of it. but it's something like, you want to do an X pattern, something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. And I'll post a sequence. I think it's something like, I don't even know. I'll post a picture. But we're going to go ahead and torque these down and start getting it ready to put our camshafts back in and put our timing back on. So let's get our tools, get to it. We got them all torqued down now. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you do them 22 foot-pounds in that order, then 43 foot-pounds in that same order. Then you unloosen them completely. Then torque them back down in the same 1 through 10 order to 22 foot-pounds. Then after that, you want to get yourself one of these degree tools, and you want to turn it in the same order, go back and do 1 through 10, 50 to 55 degrees. And that should be it. There's a couple over here. Actually, there's like 11 through 14, I think, over here. They go inside where the timing cover goes. 1, 2, 3, and then there's one on the very front down here. That's 4. And I can't remember the torque specs on that. I'm about to tighten those down, but it's in the picture. So we're going to get those on and continue to get it done. Okay, we're getting a lot closer. We got all of our timing and our camshafts put back in there. All of our white marks on our camshaft and on our gear and our chain, they all lined back up. Everything slid back together just like we took it off. Tightened down everything. We just put the valve cover back on. Oh, we also put the timing cover back on right here. We just cleaned all the old silicone that was on it all the way around the edge. We cleaned it off. Put on some more silicone, put it up there and tighten it down. Put our valve cover back on. So now we're going to put our spark plugs back in. We've got to put our exhaust back up, and then we've got to put that bracket from our alternator back up here. So that's the main things that are left, is just getting our exhaust, put the alternator back up, spark plugs back in, and then we'll grab our wires and drop them all down, start plugging everything back in. Then we'll get this radiator, put it back in here. So let's get our tools together and start working on this exhaust now, get this knocked out. All right, we got the heat shield back on, got our bracket for the alternator, spark plugs back in. We are getting very close, so I think we're about to grab the coils, put them back in there, grab our electrical down, get everything plugged back in, and grab that radiator and get it slapped in. So let's keep working towards it. Alright guys, we got it all put back together. I think everything's done. We've changed the oil. Well, I've drained the oil. I hadn't filled it back up yet. But it's all drained. We're about to top it off. We're going to put some coolant in, and then we'll put the hood back on. But I believe we are good to go. Let's get some of this coolant. We're going with the universal stuff. Mixes with anything. Okay, so we're going to fill this up. We're going to top it up with some oil. We've already put on the filter. The oil is 5W30 for this Sentra. So, all right, let's get all this filled up. Alright, she's all back together. Got the coolant topped off, got the oil topped off, hood back on. Kathy over there tightening it up. Alright, fired up, Kathy, and let's see how she sounds. Oh man, I hope that timing lined up right. Here she goes. 3, 2, 1. She sounds smooth as eggs. Looking good. Kathy's in there looking good. Alright. Well, I got my driving gloves on, so let's take it for a drive and see how it does. Alright guys, we got her all fixed up. Head gasket changed. The temp is good. The heater's working. Everything's running good. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, please. If you got any questions or comments, just drop them down below. Maybe I missed out on something. If you guys leave me a comment, I'll explain to you how I did it. There it is, guys, all fixed up.